Hey guys, this week we are talking about our recent trip to Vegas, theming and properties in Vegas, and yes, the CV Big Wheel is back, so stick around. This episode is sponsored by Cove Security. Get started today at crapvegas.com/Cove.
Welcome to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Vegas, here we come.
Vegas!
Here are your hosts, Chris and Josh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 54 of the Crap Vegas podcast. I am Chris. He is Josh. Josh, what's new out there?
I'm freshly back from the Met Gala.
Oh, really? Did you have a very fancy outfit to wear for it?
I did. No, I didn't go to the Met Gala.
Oh, geez. Did you see all the people that went to the Met Gala?
I saw some pretty attractive people went to the Met Gala, yes. And I thought to myself, there are no unattractive people in all the pictures I saw.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. And you know who was there, Josh?
Zendaya.
She was. So a good call back there for you.
Bad Bunny was there.
Mm-hmm. I still don't know who Bad Bunny is, but yep.
I saw Bad Bunny hosting Saturday Night Live, like a year ago or 6 months ago or something. That was my first.
Is it a man or a woman?
Bad Bunny's a man.
Okay. I would have guessed woman, so.
I don't know what else to say about Bad Bunny.
Okay, fair enough. Let's keep moving then, because I'm not interested in it. Is everything good out on the West Coast, though?
Yeah, everything's good. We are I think both Chris and I are still a little bit of a post-Vegas hangover blues. I think I'm a little less bluesy than Chris for reasons we'll talk about, but I'm already looking forward to the next trip. Chris is not quite there yet.
Yeah, it took a strong hit on me while we were out there. Mentally, I'm not in a mindset where I want to go back to Vegas yet, but I'm sure by the end of this episode, Josh, I will have forgotten all that and I'll be ready to go again.
I know we're just in the tease, but Chris, I was going to play a clip from the last show where we said that you could meet everybody there on Sunday. You would be there to meet everybody finally. And no, that didn't happen.
No, that absolutely did not happen. And we'll get to that in a minute. But let's tell people how to get a hold of us. You can reach us via email. That's podcast@crapvegas.com. You can reach us on our Facebook page, crapvegas.com/Facebook. You can leave us a voicemail. That's crapvegas.com/voicemail. Or the easiest way is always going to be on Twitter.
X.
He's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13. Or the show page is at Crap Vegas.
And so, Chris, do we have a few voicemails queued up for today?
Oh, yeah. So many of them, Josh. No, I have not looked.
I'm thinking we might.
There in a minute.
I'm thinking we're going to talk so much we won't have time to get to the voicemails.
That's what it is. We were going to play 6 or 7 voicemails this episode, and we just didn't have time to get around to it. I apologize in advance, but we got a lot of other stuff to discuss.
Perfect.
Okay, previous episode feedback. Josh, we got an email from Miss Jones, one of our patrons. She said, "Gentlemen, love the episode about gambling myths and can unfortunately say I have fallen into those traps on more than one occasion. Still to this day, I always tell the desk agent at my local casino resort that I don't want to stay on the 7th floor because I hate hearing that number. Absolutely love the idea of the big wheel and hope you guys get it a little cleaned up soon. That has a ton of potential. Hopefully see you all in Vegas in June when you come back out, Michelle." So thank you, Michelle, for that message. Do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. And I agree. The big wheel has a lot of potential. We'll see at the end of this show if we've perfected it. My guess is probably not yet, but we're getting there.
I'll tell you, Michelle, I'm glad to hear somebody saying positive things because this was a big topic when Josh and I were in Vegas together is what we're going to do with this thing because I've heard mostly negative. I've seen positive. I'm torn. I don't love it. I don't hate it yet, but I do agree it needs to be cleaned up. But you know what? This is Josh's baby, and when he comes up with something, we're going to roll with it until we can't roll with it anymore. So it's going to get where it needs to. Just give it time.
Not only that, I'm already thinking of T-shirt ideas that say "Save the Wheel" and things like that.
Okay, let's not push it, Josh.
Crap Vegas, save the wheel.
Because you don't want me to put this to a public poll. That's not a good idea. So let's see.
Anyway, thanks, Michelle. I totally agree about the 7th floor. Mm-hmm. I don't really have a lot of floor superstitions, but 7 would be one for sure that catches my eye.
Yeah, you know, Josh, there's been many times at my local property I stay at occasionally that I've been in room 666. And I don't know how I felt about it. I didn't really care. But I will tell you, because the front desk agent told me, it's the absolute last room they give out.
I can believe that.
So I was checking in one night at like 11:57 at night on a Friday when they were going to be completely sold out. And I've got room 666 before. And yeah, it's not cool.
I had a good room number at Venetian on this trip that we're going to talk about. I had 31333.
Oh, it would have been better if it was like 71177 or something. I don't know. Like
Well, no, but it
711.
was still, I mean, to give, when we went to go order food or something.
Oh, you could remember it?
31333 was just super easy to remember.
Unlike Chris, who when we went to Starbucks Saturday morning, she asked me for my room number and I didn't have my little key card holder with me and I gave her a room. She waited like 2 minutes and she said, that's not under
it.
your name. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. It's actually this. And she goes, that's not right either. And literally there was 50 people in line behind us. It was moving very slow. I finally got the room number right, but boy, did I feel bad about it.
One thing I do like about what Venetian does with when you order and give your room number, a lot of places when you do this, you probably know already, but they ask for your last name or something to identify you or show your ID. Well, Venetian, they ask for the first 2 letters of your last name.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
they do
somewhat
that.
easier than having to say it or spell it out or take out your ID.
Yeah, I agree. It's not too terribly bad at all. Next question, we got an email from Tim. He said, guys, heard your discussion last week about dream gambling trips outside the States and saw Monaco was on your list. I was just there about a month ago, and I think you all would really love it. The casino itself is absolutely beautiful. They do have craps, and it is just a completely different experience playing over there. It is win level of quality and background, but at a much higher level of sophistication and elegance. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about it. Thanks for the show. You guys do an amazing job, Tim. And Josh, when I think of sophistication and elegance, Crap Vegas is the first thing that comes to my mind.
I was thinking, well, maybe we don't want to go to Monaco. Maybe Tijuana.
He almost talked us out of it. No, actually, that's what I'm probably most excited about. I love playing at Wynn because it's just so elegant and regal. But there's something about gambling in Europe where it's just taken more seriously. You don't have the drunk kids running around yelling and screaming. I think that would be really fun. Well, I mean, yeah, theoretically, but I think that would be really just a fun experience. Josh, I'd love to have to get dressed up in a suit and go down there and just have a whole like James Bond-esque evening.
Yeah, we're going to do it. It'll happen. It might be a year or 2 from now, but we're going to make it.
Yeah, just to make it clear, this is Josh holding this process up at this point. I'm ready to go next week.
Well, yes, our time constraints are different.
Yeah, okay. Well, so work on that, Josh. That would be fun.
Okay, fair enough.
We also got a message on Patreon from Vegas Brat 11. I'm so glad I found your show. I heard about it from Tim at The Better Life. Thank you, Tim. And I'm extremely thankful to him. You guys remind me of a couple of my friends just chilling in my basement and shooting the shit while playing some cards. A couple shows ago, you mentioned casino credit. If I wanted to set up a credit line with my local casino, how much cash would I need to have in my bank account to do so? I don't usually keep a lot in there, so didn't know if that would matter if my credit was still good. Josh?
So I think Vegas Brat, there's a couple different ways to go at this. You should have at least your whatever you're asking for in your line of credit in your bank account, and probably double or even triple that to be safe. I don't know how the casinos look at it. What I can tell you is that the first time I applied for credit, I had more than that in the account, a significant amount more than what I was asking for. However, when I just recently applied for credit at the Venetian, I did not have even close to the amount I asked for in the account. So I think that they're taking into account my credit score and the fact that I have credit at a number of different properties into account. So I think it can vary, but I think your first time, you're most likely to be approved, I would say, if you have more than whatever you're asking for in your account. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're right on that one, Josh. Of course, I think the rule of thumb most people have is you should have triple what you've asked for in your account, especially if it's your first account you're opening. That being said, pretty much all of these casinos, especially in Vegas, all use the same data repository for all this info. I think it's called Casino Credit, not very creative. But they know what lines you have at other properties. They know what your payment history is. So if you're an established player that's had credit in the past, it's much easier. You don't have to worry about, oh, I don't keep as much money in that account. I wouldn't worry about it from that perspective, and especially if you're opening another line in the same company. Like if you're at MGM and you have credit at Aria and you want to open at Bellagio, I found MGM doesn't even do any future credit pulls. I don't even know if they really check accounts half the time. Sometimes they've asked me for bank statements before just to confirm. But keep in mind, they do use your average account balance, not necessarily what's there that day. So if you usually have 3 times the amount, but you just happen to be low for a couple weeks for whatever reason, that's not that big of a deal because they'll look at 3, 6, and even 12-month bank averages.
And you can most of the time use more than one bank account also.
Sure.
So if that's an issue, if you want one to be your primary account, but you have more money in a savings account, for example, you can use both while they set it up and then have them pull from your checking when the time comes, that kind of thing.
And that's exactly what I do, Josh. Anytime I apply for casino credit, I don't keep much money in my checking account. There's just
Same
no
with me,
reason
yeah.
to. I mean, I keep enough to cover my monthly bills and a little cushion just in case, but I keep almost everything in a savings account that I want to keep liquid. When savings accounts are drawing 3.5%, 4%, in a checking account, best case is drawing maybe 0.5% if you're lucky. There's just no reason to keep it in there. So I typically give them both accounts and just let them know any markers will be drawn off my checking, but you're welcome to verify my savings for just fund availability. So thank you all for the feedback this week. We appreciate it. And Josh, let's keep it moving. Okay, Josh, main topic this week. You and I went to Vegas. And if you listen to the first 3 minutes of the show, you will know it was not a successful endeavor for me in any way, shape, or form, really. But we do have a lot of things to talk about, at least.
On the plus side, though, Chris, we did have 16 hand pays between us.
We did. And Josh, what percentage of those would you say that you had?
It's a fairly high percent, I think.
I think it's somewhere between 99.9 and 100.
Something like that, yeah.
Let's just call it 99 and round up. How's that? Yeah, Josh had all sorts of luck after I left. But yeah, the trip itself, we had a terrific time. But Josh, why don't we start off? This is the first time you've been to Venetian in a long time. So tell me what you thought about the experience, arriving, the room, everything.
So yeah, this is the first time that I've been to Venetian in, I don't know what, maybe say 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Chris got me hooked up with his host, which is great. She arranged transportation for me. And as we talked about before, and I think this is kind of new, Chris and I learned that Venetian is kind of using what, Chris, 2 transportation companies now. So I had one that actually was Venetian branded, whereas Chris didn't. So
yes,
what did you learn about that, Chris?
Yeah, I was wondering about that because we've mentioned before that a lot of times Venetian's cars are Bell Transportation. That's who's actually doing it. And sometimes they have Venetian water in the car and stuff like that, but it's clearly a Bell vehicle. And I wasn't 100% sure. When I was on the ride in, had a really nice driver that I discussed things with, and he was saying that forever Venetian had outsourced all their travel to Bell, but now they're starting to bring things in-house. And so now there's 2 companies. You got Bell doing half of it, and they had a name for it. It was like Luxury Transportation Services or something, LTS, something like that. They brought it in-house for some of the other vehicles now, and they're kind of moving that way, slowly but surely. And we even asked the host when we met with her Saturday evening about that topic, and she said, yes, they're trying to bring their transportation back in-house.
So anyway, I had a lovely SUV in. I got to Venetian. It had been so long since I've been there. I forgot how just stunning the Venetian lobby is when you go in there with I had forgotten all that. I mean, it's a beautiful property, especially that entrance. And so I wasn't sure, Chris, if I was supposed to go to the invited guest line or the VIP area. So I went to invited guest, and she said, oh, no, you should go to the VIP area.
That's the exact same thing that happened to me last time I was there, Josh. I went to that same invited guest line.
Right.
And she grabbed my ID and she's like, no, you need to check in at VIP.
Over there, yeah.
And walked me over there. What did you think of the VIP check-in area?
Well, it's super cool. And Chris, I don't know if you've gone back into the further back, but there's an area that you actually have to scan your room card and you can get back, and there's food and drinks. And I don't know if you saw all that area.
I didn't even go back there, Josh. I didn't know that was part of it. I saw there was a drink stand kind of when you come in the main area. But I guess I've just never taken the time to go back.
Yeah, it's a huge, big sitting area lounge with some, like the light buffet that most of these VIP lounges have, water and tea, and waiter service with drinks and all that kind of stuff. It was super cool.
That's what I like about you, Josh, is you always explore a heck of a lot more than I do. You will go through doors that say, don't go here.
I do.
Just to see what happens. So you always fill me in on things I didn't even know.
So the hilarious thing is I'm there at the VIP desk, and, I give the lady my ID, and she asks for a credit card. And the credit card that I use is my MGM credit card.
Oh, wow.
And so there's 3 desk agents there in the VIP room and no other customers. And she said, oh, look, an MGM credit card.
As loud as humanly possible.
We're going to put you on the bottom floor.
Exactly. Josh proceeded to get his key on the 3rd floor.
She's given me it was so cool. I mean, it was just like, she felt comfortable giving me that much crap, about my MGM card. So I got room 31333, as we said. I just had a normal Venetian suite. So all Venetian rooms are suites, the way they label it. But it's like a 2-level, so it has that little step down. And I'm pretty sure, based on my memory, that this is the same. This is just a basic room. I didn't have anything super fancy.
I mean, now, so the room itself, Josh, did you like the basic room there? How do you think it compares against, say, an Aria or a Wynn basic room?
Well, it doesn't compare to Wynn. So I think the Wynn standard room is by far my favorite standard room in Vegas. And I think it's far and away better than anything else. This, I like the Venetian room a lot. Yes, it's a little dated and they're starting an upgrade or starting a renovation now. I think it's a $1.5 billion renovation, all that kind of stuff. But I thought the room design was wonderful. The furniture is dated, yes, and it's grandmotherly, yes. But I liked the room. I didn't have any problems, and I thought to myself, I could stay here easily. Plenty of room. It's a nice, spacious room. I like the 2 levels. It does kind of set it apart. The temperature, as you said, goes way down, but the temperature doesn't reach the temperature you set.
No, I never was able to get it below 62. But
I
it got damn cold in my room.
I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It got damn cold in that room, Josh. Now, I will say the only thing that it does have going for it more so than a Wynn room, it's significantly larger in my eyes.
I think so too. I don't know the actual square
at least
footage.
It feels that way.
I agree.
I mean, it feels like you can spread out a lot more in that room than you can in a Wynn room.
That's what I mean. This was really spacious. I felt, plenty of room to do anything I wanted to. Now, I went and saw, Chris, let's talk about your room, your fantastic suite that Chris had. I actually, in some ways, liked my room, my standard room, a little better than your suite.
Interesting, because completely different ends of the spectrum.
Totally.
I mean, I don't know how many square feet are in your room, maybe 700, 800,
like
somewhere
that,
in that range.
Yeah.
And this is like a 1,500 square foot massive living room,
like,
big separate
16,
bedroom.
1,700 something.
I mean, significantly larger. It had a wet bar. I mean, yes, Joyce, the sink did have water in it and it did drain. No, it is a much bigger suite. I mean, all the space in the world you could ever want. Why is it that you think you prefer the normal size room, Josh?
Yours, Chris's wasn't 2 levels, so it's all 1 level. And it was very separated, like very segmented. I don't know. I just like the flow of the room that I had, just that 2-level standard suite. It just felt good. I mean, I wouldn't say no to your room, not saying that, but I like it was less intimate.
I agree.
If you had a family or something, for sure, but for one person, maybe it's
I think that's the thing. I think if you're going with a larger group, if there's 3 or 4 of you, or if you're somebody that likes to invite people back to your room, then I think the suite that I had, I don't remember the name of it. It's like a Grand Salon strip suite,
maybe, or
something like that. I don't know. It's on their top floors. I think it would be good for that because having a full wet bar with bar stools. One thing I do like, Josh, and I don't think your room had that, it did have a full dining table. Did yours have one?
No.
I do really like having a table.
One with 3 chairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's better than nothing.
Yeah. I'm not complaining. And Chris, did you invite anybody to your room?
Oh, yeah, Josh. Tons and tons of people. No,
fair enough. I thought you were going to say you.
No. The only person that had my room number was you.
It was me.
And I made sure that door was locked after 5 p.m. So overall, though, Josh, you like the Venetian room. You like the check-in experience. Transport went well for you. So a good start to the trip.
Yes, a great start to the trip. I can't say enough positive things about the check-in experience. Like everybody I interacted with, and this holds true for the whole trip. We'll talk more about it. But everyone I interacted with was positive and helpful, from the driver to the person at the invited guest line to the VIP check-in person. I had some interactions with housekeeping. Everybody was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I always have had the same experience in my times there, and same thing this trip, Josh, no matter what it was. There was one time we were done playing because we were getting our ass handed to us, and I wanted to go back to the room and just rest for a little bit. And I got back to the room, and they were cleaning my room. And when I walked in the door, it couldn't have been nicer. I said, I'm so sorry. I just want to grab a couple things because I didn't want to interrupt her. And she said, oh, no. You just take your time. I'll move outside. You do whatever you need to do, and you just come grab me when you're done, and I'll come right back. I don't mind. And I mean, just so friendly with small stuff like that. And they were even friendly to you, Josh, the housekeeping was, after you tried to tip them 70 cents.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That didn't bother them?
So our first day, Chris and I went down for coffee dice. And as you guys know, I try and call before I go down to housekeeping to ask them to clean the room kind of when they start in the morning at 9 or 9:30. Because if we break for lunch early, I'm hoping that the room has already been cleaned. Sometimes I forget to do that and that kind of thing. And I always leave a tip out, and I always put a note that says, for housekeeping, thank you. And I had emptied out my pocket with my pocket change. And I put that, and I'd written the note for housekeeping. Thank you. I emptied out my pocket, put the change down, went down to play coffee dice, and I realized I had forgotten to leave anything else. So it was, 77 cents or something. And
it wasn't very good.
It was
and Josh
freaking
is
me
like,
out.
And I was like, Josh, don't worry. We'll be back up there before then. And of course, we almost weren't. But yeah, that's pretty bad. It would have been a big deal if you just left like 70 cents sitting on the counter and didn't leave a tip. Like that's bad.
Or a note. Yeah, you mean
but
a note.
Yeah. But when you have a note that says thank you and then leave 70 cents, that is almost like smacking somebody in the face.
You mean the world to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as Chris said, we cut it close. We did cut it close because actually when we took our break, we separated and went up to our rooms. Housekeeping was in Chris's room. So
yes,
they hadn't got to me yet, but they were close.
And I hadn't left a tip yet. So I told her, hey, I just need to do a couple things real quick. I thankfully had money in my pocket. I could leave it on the counter. I even said, hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were coming early. I left my tip on the table for you. Thank you so much. And she was super friendly. So no, all my experiences there have been really good. Let's talk about I would normally say the more fun part, but this trip, not so much. Josh, what did you think of gambling at Venetian?
Well, I said this on the Patreon show, but pretty much everything Chris and I touched gambling-wise turned to dust on that Friday and Saturday. I mean, Chris, we must have played maybe 4 or 5 crap sessions over that time. Mm-hmm. Lost every single one so much so that the best one where we lost $600 or $700, we thought we had, hit the feature 7 times.
Yeah, we commented on what a great session it was because we only lost $800 this time. That's not a good sign.
We couldn't hit anything. And I think we're going to talk more about it, but like everybody we were with seemed to be hitting things around us.
Yeah, that was the frustrating part. So we played with a lot of CV listeners over the weekend. We played with Boring Jack. He played craps with us in the morning, Saturday morning. We also played some video poker and stuff with him. We played with Jordan at the craps tables most of the weekend. And then a couple other individuals that I unfortunately forgot to get their names. But one thing that we found that was consistent is when Jordan was at another table, he was killing it. He was telling, it's so good over here, guys. You got to come join us. And we never had that kind of experience. And then, Jack was, video poker is great. Or if Josh was just by himself, I hit 15, 16 hand pays or what it was. But when Josh and I were standing next to each other or sitting next to each other doing something, it was a guaranteed loss. And it wasn't one of those losses where you just walk up to a table, buy in, and slowly dwindle your money down until it's all gone an hour and a half or 2 later. This was like, Josh, on Saturday, when we played in the high limit room at Palazzo, which I've been trying to do forever, when we are finally able to get over there. Let's
tell that story. Yeah. So we were actually going to play there on Friday, weren't we? In fact, Jack, who'd been playing Boring Jack, should we just call him BJ for short?
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Let's go with Boring Jack.
Boring Jack had been
playing. This is a kid-friendly show sometimes, Josh.
I'm talking about Blackjack.
Uh-huh.
So Boring Jack had been playing high-limit video poker, or been playing video poker in the high-limit room at Palazzo, and told us, come on over, the high-limit table there waiting for you.
Yeah,
and
I think he even said that he had talked to the dealers in the box multiple times and said, I have people coming over, keep it going.
He said they were practically begging him to play there. So we're like, okay, we're coming over. We finished up our losing session. We said, we found Jordan, who was playing at another table. We said, we're going over to play at the high limit table at Palazzo. So and Jordan was still making fortunes on the regular table.
I think that's worth pointing out, is that Jordan was trying to get us to come join his table. I think it was a crapless table.
He was playing crapless, yep.
Where he was absolutely killing it. So we went from a losing table, passed by the table that was doing really well so that we could go next door. We get over there and
there are no dealers at the high limit crapless table in the high limit room. And we're like, so we found Jack and we're like, what happened? He said they left as soon as he said, we said we're coming over, they left the table. The good thing is it's really easy to find Jack in a casino. Yes, it is. Jack is a distinctive looking fellow. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the high limit video poker bar, you're most likely to find him. Yeah, absolutely. Huddled up at a machine and talking to the waitress there and just, having a good old time. So anyway, back to the beginning. So we did play at that table the next day. So the next day we were there right when they opened. I think it was noon.
Table opens at
Jordan.
noon.
Yeah.
We talked to everybody. We told them we're playing with you. They said, no problem. We'll have you set up. We were ready to go.
It was you, me, and Jordan, I think, and Jack was there, but he stayed on the video poker machines.
Smart man.
And we bought in. We did our usual buy-ins. We jumped in. We lost everything in 12 minutes.
That's probably being generous. I've never seen money go that quickly, Josh. It was literally 0.7, 0.2 random number 7, 0.7 again. The best roll that we had in those 12 minutes was I threw a 12
Yes.
and then an 11. Keep in mind, it's crapless. I
Right.
threw a 12 and then an 11 and then out. And that was the best roll that we had.
It was.
So it was not good.
And I think we've got some listeners that are thinking, well, you guys, it's because you're playing crapless, and crapless is terrible. In this case, it didn't have anything to do with that. We actually were thinking about our rolls and things. We would have lost more had been
It
a
actually
normal
would have
table.
been worse on a
Right.
regular table because the few times that we actually hit a number, it was typically a horn number
Right.
that we wouldn't have got paid on a normal table. But yeah, Josh, that was one of the worst sessions I've ever had. I've never had that many bad rolls in a row like we had. All three of us just couldn't do crap throwing at that table. But honestly, that was a fairly consistent theme. There were a couple sessions we had over the weekend that drug out a little bit more and we didn't get completely massacred. But for the most part, it was just really fast dwindling of money getting in and out of tables. So much that on Saturday night, when I had already decided we were done, before we went to dinner, I had messaged our host and let her know, hey, I'm leaving early. I'm not sticking around until Monday morning. I'm leaving Sunday morning. I said, I'm getting my ass handed to me and I need to get out of here. And of course, she took time to review our play and see what was going on. So she knew how bad it had been going. But the first thing she said, and I think this conversation is worth mentioning, Josh, when we walked up and started talking to her, she was saying, I hate that you guys got killed so badly at a craps table
and
like
so
that.
quickly, right?
And so quickly compared to if you just would have played that through a slot or a video poker or anything like that. She's like, she even told us, she's like, look, if you played that money through a slot machine, I could give you the world.
Right.
But when it goes through at a craps table that quickly, she said, I know the loss is there. I know it hurts, but there's very little I can do as a result of it.
Yeah, which is, I mean, we knew that already, I think.
Of course.
But it hurts to hear your host say that. Like, we've had no fun. We've got no status with the property. Like,
Yeah.
why did we just do that?
Yeah. I mean, every property's different on how they treat Theo loss versus actual loss. It's something that I think Win actually does better than most places, Josh. They give you a lot of credit for actual losses.
Right.
Typically, when they're running promos and they have different tiers of what they'll give you. So say they're having a free play promotion and their free play levels, it may start at 1,000 and the next tier is 1,500 and the next tier is 2,500 in free play or something like that. They determine those tiers typically by saying, okay, if you are a $15,000 Theo loss player or a $25,000 actual loss player, then you hit this tier. So they actually will give you credit for those big losses at Win, even if it didn't really generate a lot of Theo, and I give them credit for that. But at the same time, though, Josh, yeah, I mean, she is right. Playing that money through on a slot machine with the return that you would have got, it would have lasted a lot longer. And I mean, from a earnings perspective, I mean, you probably could have hit mid-top tier at that point.
Yeah.
And as is, you got really not much for it at all. It'd be hard to advance that way. It's part of being a craps player, but gosh, it sucks.
Oh, it does. One thing before we move off a little bit of that day. So after that crapless session where we got destroyed, Chris and I were kind of just trying to find some cheap gambling to keep us entertained. We played some video poker, but we didn't play normal video poker. We ended up at these machines with bonus wheels.
Oh, it's not enough for Josh and I to do
like $5
normal
or
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had to find, it's like, oh, look, there's a video poker that has bonus wheels. And here's a video poker that has 150 hands in bonus wheels. And that's what I ended up playing somehow. I was playing like a nickel machine, but it had 100 lines.
I asked Chris how much you wanted. It was $25.
Oh, and it was worse than that, Josh, because it was like $30 a spin or $40 a spin. And you'd hit a 4 of a kind and get to spin the wheel and you'd win back $26 out of it. It was not good.
That's how desperate we were. One more thing I wanted to say, Chris. Jordan gave us a karma donation at the table when we were playing crapless with him. Yeah, he threw down $25 for us on Hardway or something. I don't remember what it was, but he gave us, or maybe it was just me. Maybe he gave me $25. Anyway, it was a karma donation that Jordan gave me, I'm going to say, and I wanted to say thank you.
Oh, well, we appreciate that, Jordan. Thank you very much.
At least I know, right?
I know one time I had a decent roll or what was it? I was hitting all the hard ways for some reason. There was a couple of rolls where I was just nailing hard ways.
And Jordan was playing the hard ways too.
And he was playing them hard. He was playing the hard ways hard. And so he actually made a good chunk of change off of some of the hard ways I hit. And he threw me a quarter as a tip for hitting so when I jokingly said that would be my fee. I did turn around and give it to the dealers.
I think he gave one to me as in to make it equal. That's what it was.
That's probably what it was. And I threw mine to the dealers and told them to put it on a hard 8 or something for them. Because I'd much rather, I clearly was not going to make money this weekend. Maybe they could make some. So yeah, gambling on Saturday was not very good. We did venture forth into video poker a lot more this weekend.
We did.
And I think we've settled, Josh, if you and I are going to play video poker, I prefer not to do it at a bar because I find that to be a little bit more antisocial because it's spaced out too much. But we do like sitting at a video poker, area together. And I think we like 3 or 5 line double bonus. Is that where we ended up?
Yes, double bonus. I like 5 lines. Chris likes 3 or 5. 3 is okay, but I'm finding 1 is almost too slow. I disagree a little bit on that. I don't mind bar top video poker as long as I'm drinking. That was kind of fun.
Oh, see, I don't drink that much.
I know that was you didn't drink as much this trip, so that took away.
Yeah, so it kind of took away a little bit from it. I don't like, Josh, how the machines themselves are they're
spread
like a good 4 to 5 feet away, and then they're angled so you can't really see the other person's screen. It's just I liked being able to sit next to you and see Josh is holding 3 cards to a royal. Is he going to get the last 2 on his 5 opportunities and just watching? It's almost like a bonus round that isn't a bonus round where you can share in the excitement.
There was a pretty funny visual. I'll try and set it. We were playing before the high limit craps table opened at the Palazzo high limit room. We were playing some video poker, waiting for it to be new. And so Jack is there and Jordan and the two of us.
I know where this is going.
And the only table left for Chris to sit is the little, I would say the accessible station for video poker.
The handicap accessible, roll your wheelchair up to this station, but it's also 4 feet below everybody else. So I felt like I was at the kids' table playing video poker while Jack and Josh were over there at the adult table.
Yeah, so if you can picture, that's probably the reason Chris doesn't want to play bar top video poker now, is we kept laughing at him there at the end of the table playing video poker.
I was not a big fan of that, Josh. So after we got our playing in and met a couple listeners and stuff, Josh, we were going back to Atomic Saloon Show. We'd seen it before. Our host was nice enough to not only set us up with tickets, but set us up with one of those amazing booths that we had last time that came with the alcohol and the mixers and everything. What an awesome experience it was again.
It was terrific. So last time, if you remember, Chris and I actually had to pay for that VIP packet
paid out of pocket
service, whatever it was. Yeah, so she set us up with that based really on Chris's play because I hadn't played there yet. And
you're welcome.
She knew you were good for it. If you're going to go to see Atomic Saloon and you're with a couple people, the VIP booth thing, I don't know if it's called a VIP booth, but whatever, it is a super
I think it's
great
called
deal.
The champagne package is what they call
champagne package. And it's, what was it, about $500, Chris, total?
Yeah, it's like $250 a ticket.
Yeah.
And they have 2, 4, and I think even 6 people booths.
Right. And you get alcohol as part of that, your package.
You do.
And really neat. Now, the one kind of downside to it is some of the booths, you can't see the full stage. Well, you can see the stage, but some of the stuff that happens kind of around the stage, up above, you're a little limited, I think, in viewing.
Yes.
So that's the one downside, but it's a great way to see Atomic Saloon.
Yeah, if you had one of the 2 people booths like Josh had, and Josh, I think that's why it is a two-person booth, because if you sat on the other side of where we sat, yes, you wouldn't be able to see the stage very clearly at all.
Right.
But the ones that are closer to the stage, because there's only like 6 booths in the whole place, the ones that are closer to the stage would have a much better face-on view of what's going on. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you break down the cost of buying drinks and all that stuff and mixers and waters and stuff and put it on your check, it's not that much of an additional cost if you're paying out of pocket. Like, we weren't upset that we paid for it last time out of pocket, but it makes it for such a fun experience that it's so weird too, Josh, because when you're done, like if you want waters or sodas or anything like that, they'll bring them to you, no cost. They never ask. And they don't even bring you a check at the end, even if it's already paid. So if you want to leave a tip, that's my only thing. If you do want to leave a tip, which you absolutely should, you have to bring cash.
Yes.
Because there's no way to pay with a card.
Right.
But other than that, Josh, the only thing I'll say about the show this time, It wasn't as good as it was last time. And it was mostly because some of the people that we really liked the time before, they seemed to be on vacation or something. So they had their stand-ins, their whatever they call it, and in that sort of situation.
Understood.
Their B team, as I would call it. I like some of the acts better. I like some of the acts a little bit worse. It wasn't as good as last time, but it's still at the very top for me as a show everybody should see in Vegas.
Yeah, I think I felt the same way. A few of the acts, I was kind of waiting, like, am I remembering this person differently than I thought? Yeah. And I was looking for that act. So I was a little disappointed that I didn't see some of the ones that I expected to see. It was still fantastic. I still had a great time. I still think it's my favorite Spiegel World show and my favorite show like that in Vegas. It just was a teeny step down from when we saw it before. But also maybe we were a little jaded because we had seen it before.
Well, and I think it was just some of the small things, Josh, like the main cowboy in the show.
Right.
This time when we saw it, he didn't even know how to play guitar, so they pumped in the music, whereas that was actually live last time, and he was truly playing as he went. That adds a little bit to it. One of my favorite characters in the whole show is one of the two nuns. The other nun was there, and she's terrifically talented.
Amazing.
And she's probably the funniest part of the show. But the other nun is there to be the eye candy towards the end of the show, and she just wasn't the level of eye candy I would want compared to what I had last time.
No offense if you're listening, second nun.
Yeah, please don't take offense. You were still beautiful. No problem. But that being said, though, it wasn't as good, Josh. But yes, it's still top of my list for Vegas. I still think I'd go there over Absinthe. It's a tough call, and I understand why people like Absinthe more. But just such a really fun show to be at.
Really was.
And I know some people have asked about the disco show that Spiegel World's going to put on. I love disco music, and it sounds super exciting. But the downside seems to be there are no seats and are no tables.
Say, right. That's
it's
my
truly
worry.
Like going to a discotheque where you're going to be on your feet for an hour and a half. I mean, no drinking because, you're on a floor with a bunch of other people. I feel like we should still do it, Josh, but it may not be our cup of tea.
Well, maybe. I was going to say, I don't know. Well, if there's drinking, I could probably handle it.
There's only one downside to it.
Only one. Okay. What, disco?
Okay. I mean, other than the whole standing thing. It's at the link.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I thought you were going to say it's disco, and I'm okay with disco, but.
Oh, I love disco.
Yeah. All right.
Which reminds me, that's probably one of my favorite parts about Atomic Saloon is the 20 minutes of music before the show starts.
Oh yeah, and it's mostly
pre-show
country for people that didn't know, and it's fantastic.
And I don't like country very often. But the pre-show that they do there, the 15, 20 minutes before the show starts,
right.
Absolutely terrific. Usually
get there early.
Yeah, you definitely want to get there early. It's one of those things where Cirque shows usually have some sort of pre-show that's entertaining. They do something, whether it's O or any of those shows. I find that Spiegel World does pre-show stuff better than anybody.
I do too. So we did, as we kind of wrap up our Venetian trip week with Chris's part, at least, because Chris was going to head on home. We did finish up with dinner at Delmonico.
We did. And that was by far the best part of the whole weekend in my eyes, Josh.
I totally agree. It was, I don't know if it was the best part of the weekend for me because I had lots of fun after you left.
Up. Okay, shut up. You know what? Nobody gives a shit about the part of the trip when Chris was gone. If you want to hear that, go to Patreon, patreon.com/crapvegas. But while I was there,
yes,
Delmonico was by far my favorite part of the trip.
It absolutely was. And this was my first time there. I think, Chris, you'd been there before, right?
I'd been there a couple times, yeah.
And I can't say enough good things about it. First of all, we had an early-ish reservation. I think they opened at 5 and our reservation was maybe at 5:30.
It was. When we said we were going to go there, the options were 5:30 or 9 o'clock. And for me, that's midnight.
That's past
so I said, okay, we'll do 5:30.
Which actually, and we got there early because we'd had no luck gambling. I think we got there at like 5:15 or something, and that was after wandering around trying to kill time. And we were so bored and broke, we were thinking about taking a gondola ride together.
Well, we weren't. Josh was.
I wanted to. I thought it would be good for the show.
I told him I can get free gondola rides with my status there.
So if you guys push hard enough, maybe next time we'll take a gondola ride together.
We'll need somebody to film it, though. Walk along the canals when we're going and film us from above.
Put that on the Facebook group. Yes. So anyway, we got there early. They sat us early, which was terrific. I would say, Chris, we were in and out in an hour.
I think it was about an hour and a half. But
an hour and a half. It was quick. It was one of the best things was it wasn't a lagging dinner.
I felt like the pacing was perfect. Like I don't like dragging meals out for 2 or 3 hours. I've talked about that on the show before. But yeah, everything seemed to come right at the right time.
Yep, I agree. And so we don't get too far into the food talk, but they had a creamed corn thing that was amazing that I love. And then I had a New York strip, I think. Next time I'll probably get a filet rather than New York strip. It was just a little fattier than I like.
Okay.
Chris, what did you had a New York too, didn't you? Or did you?
No, I had a bone-in ribeye.
Okay.
Which is kind of their specialty.
Right.
And it was absolutely amazing. So flavorful. I knew Josh would like the place because they're really heavy on their seasoning on their steaks. They're
not as heavy
seasoning.
as Strip House, but
no, not as heavy as them, but they do have a really good char on their steaks. I think that gives it a lot of flavor. Portion sizes were huge. But Josh, one thing I do think is worth mentioning, when we were trying to pick out what sides to share, the server recommended a dish, and he said they're effectively, I don't even remember what they actually call. I think it was the potato croquettes. And I think he referred to them as adult tater tots. And the moment he said that, I was like, well, I can't turn down adult tater tots, right?
No, that pushed you over the edge. Yeah.
It really did. So I was like, fine, I don't know what they are, but let's get them. Josh, that was the most amazing side dish I have ever had.
It was fantastic. I like the corn better, but I love anything corn. That's my favorite.
You're healthier than me, but I mean, the corn was
creamed corn
fine.
doesn't go a long way for health. But
yeah, exactly. But I'm telling you, if you go to Delmonico, you have got to get the potato croquettes. They are just like adult tater tots covered in cheese and bacon and all
sour
sorts of yumminess.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, just everything you can want. They were amazing. Their bread is good there. Their steaks are good there. Their salads. Josh had a French onion soup that looked delicious.
I did. That's right. I forgot. I had a French onion soup to start with. It was terrific. Not as good as Wynn room service French onion soup, but that's just my preference. I like French onion soup a little smokier, and Wynn's is kind of nice and smoky, but this was still wonderful.
So overall, just a great experience. Highly recommend. I mean, we talked, I think, on our last trip where we went together, Josh, John George fell flat and did not live up to expectations that time. Delmonico lived up to my expectations and exceeded it. I would go back there every night of the week if I could. It was terrific.
Yep. When we go back in June, assuming we stay at Venetian, I'm gonna suggest that we do that for our steak dinner. I liked it that much, so for sure.
Yeah.
One last thing, I did have my pink drink cocktail. We both had a cocktail to start with. I had some pink drink off the menu, so that was good.
Yeah, I think I did too. I think we got the same
we both
drink
have
actually.
The same thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It was really
very
good.
Yeah.
I don't usually order pink drinks.
Pink alcohol.
But I looked at the menu and I just wasn't in the mood for bourbon. I wanted to stick to something vodka based. So I went with whatever their specialty was that was vodka based. It was excellent. Tasted great. Not too sweet. It was awesome.
And last thing, just as kind of we wrap up the staff, as I said, at the restaurant was terrific. We didn't mention the dealers. I really liked the dealers at Venetian. I don't think we played with a bad crew. The high limit crew at Palazzo in the high limit room felt terrible for us the way the luck was going, but they were super nice and very good dealers. Everybody. I really can't say enough.
I was going to ask you about that before we got off of completely what you thought about overall Venetian dealers. I do find Venetian dealers to be slightly better than Palazzo dealers. And I kind of compare it the same as I think Wynn dealers are a lot better than Encore dealers. But overall, nobody's bad. Just like nobody at Encore is bad. But yeah, just some really fun, engaging crews. Mm-hmm. When we had our great session, Josh, where we only lost $800,
right?
That is actually one of my favorite crews they have there. So really good, supportive, so fun, cracking jokes the whole time. They keep the pace moving very well there. I don't think it slows down nearly as much as it does at some places, even more so than Aria. That's one complaint I usually have about Aria is I think they slow the game down a little bit too much sometimes. But you know what? The way it was going, Josh, we needed those dice to move as slowly as they possibly could.
Yes.
But overall, Josh, Venetian, thumbs up. You're ready to go back again?
Thumbs up. I'm ready to go back. And we're talking about it for my birthday trip, the end of June. At least we might split it up. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Venetian will be one of the places we go.
Okay. So we'll wrap that up a little bit later when we get back to our upcoming trips. But Josh, after the break, we're going to answer some listener questions, including a topic that has been on our minds for a very long time. Josh, something a lot of people overlook is home security. They think it's too expensive, they hate the contracts, and they just don't want to deal with all the hassle. I'm sure you've dealt with this before.
Chris, I don't know if you remember, but we actually had an attempted, I learned in law school there's a difference between robbery and burglary. So burglary there was nobody home, and robbery is when there's somebody home, I think. So we had an attempted robbery last year at our house. Somebody masked men came to the back door of our house and to the house next door, saw that we were there and the neighbor chased them off and that kind of thing. But that prompted us to invest much more heavily in home security.
Well, I have a solution for people like you and everybody else. It's Cove Security. Cove is an industry leader in home security systems without any of the hassles that people are used to. You can self-install the system. There's no contracts, 24/7 support. And most importantly, it's cheap. It's less than 60 cents a day for monitored coverage, Josh. It's amazing. Cove was also named the best home security system of 2023 by U.S. News and World Report, which I know is important to you. And the best part is, if you act now, you're going to save up to 70% on your equipment. You're going to get a bonus $25 off, a free security camera, free shipping, free everything pretty much, which is say that, and no setup fees. I've been using Cove for 5-6 years at this point on my house, at my work. I love it. It's been terrific. They have an easy to use app. It's just awesome, Josh. So go ahead, get signed up today by visiting crapvegas.com/Cove.
That's crapvegas.com/Cove.
Stay safe, friends. Josh, did you know the details for Zorkfest 2024 are now starting to come out?
I did know that. I've been paying close attention.
So now it's official. The dates are November 1st through 3rd this year, and it's going to be held at Horseshoe Las Vegas. That was the big announcement this week.
I know Michael is really excited about having a vintage Las Vegas theme and being the original MGM Grand. He was excited about Horseshoe for sure.
If you've ever wanted to learn more about earning points, best use for redeeming points, casino comps, anything like that, this is the place to be. And more importantly, many of your favorite Vegas personalities, including Travel Fanboy, Adam Bauer, Karen from 360 Vegas, Mark and Dr. Mike, and even our very own Josh are going to be there for a bunch of events. It's just going to be the place to be in Vegas.
It is going to be there. You guys know that I went to Zorkfest last year in Lake Tahoe. I went to Zorkfest as just a regular guest in 2021, I'm going to say, whenever it was last in Vegas. In fact, that's where I first met Boring Jack. Zorkfest is really a lot of fun. I encourage you to sign up, and better sign up quickly.
Yes, Josh is right on that one. Here's the good part. The team over at Zorkfest is offering a super early bird discount of $60 off the normal registration fee if you're registered by Friday, May 10th. And all of you are listening to this saying, Chris, it's Sunday, May 12th. So what are you doing? We got you covered. They're actually going to extend the super early bird discount only for Crap Vegas listeners until Monday. So get over there, register, save your $60. It's going to be awesome. You're going to have tons of people you want to see there. There's coffee dice. There's Podcasters After Dark, where you can listen to some of your favorite people tell some stories while heavily intoxicated, if I had to guess, Josh. Am I right there?
Yeah, chances are good.
Probably. So the stories actually are better than even usual, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So go to travelzork.com/Zorkfest to get signed up today. That's travelzork.com/Zorkfest.
I look forward to seeing everybody there. It'll be a good time.
Okay, listener question time. We got a message on Patreon from our favorite patron name, Conflict Otter.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "Hi, guys. Love the show, as always. Question for you. Apologies if this is an old or much discussed topic on Twitter, as I don't do Twitter. There seems to be a lot of lamenting among us older millennials and Gen Xers regarding themed resorts seemingly going the way of the dinosaur in Vegas. But I don't really hear a lot of ideas about what would make a good theme for a new resort. What do you think?" And here are some of his ideas. And Josh, I also combined some of the ideas from a post that I put on Twitter almost a year ago that we meant to talk about this topic and just never got around to it.
Right.
Okay, so let's see what you think of some of these. First one, Josh, like an outer space or UFO or alien themed casino.
I love that idea. And I think that's when I was thinking about this question too. And thanks, Conflict Otter. I was thinking about that. The first theming, Chris, that always pops into my head is the Beverly Hillbillies.
Okay.
Because, which I know is really random. But because the actor that played Jethro, Max, somebody, I can't remember his last name, wanted to do a Beverly Hillbillies themed casino. So I always think of that. But when I think about like the perfect theming or what I could see actually being done, a space something, whether it's Disney doing Star Wars or whether it's Star Trek or Aliens, or that makes sense to me as a way to theme a property. What do you think?
Well, I'm not huge on that idea. I'm not saying it wouldn't be cool. Right. And I'm even thinking if you do something along those lines, instead of having a bright space, it's going to be dark ceilings with black lights and, just different illumination to make the ceiling look like a sky,
Spacey,
something like that sort of thing. I think it would be pretty cool. And let me start off by saying, I will take any theme property over
Yes.
a D theme property at the end of the day. I love theming. And it may not be my taste, but I'd still rather see that than the generic blandness that Vegas has become, where we took all of it out of there. And Josh, you touched on the second one. Somebody mentioned a Star Trek theme one. Would that be like your dream situation to have a Star Trek casino?
Yes, I might never leave.
Okay.
But
What about if it's like circus quality, but it's Star Trek theme?
Oh, that would be hard. I mean, I keep thinking of the Westgate now, where you can go and see some of the Star Trek theming still there. I mean, I would definitely want to. It would have to somehow combine some luxury with the theming, which is tricky. That's the hard part.
It would be. Yeah, and I could just see Josh now. Hey guys, I know Garrett Wong, and he's on Star Trek, so I'm important. I mean, you have his card now at Fountain Blue, so that's something.
Don't give away the Patreon secrets.
That's not a secret. It's out there. They can go listen if they want to. Okay, next one, Josh. Somebody suggested a London or UK theme.
That's interesting, with like the double-decker buses and
Yeah, I didn't know
Piccadilly
exactly. Yeah, I guess that's how they would do it. I didn't think too much on
You
that
have your
one.
phone booths. Your London phone booths could be something, and
Yeah, that would be really exciting.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, that could be interesting.
That's actually probably somewhat realistic because of the way that you have Paris, you have New York, you have
You do.
some of the actual cities or historical cities that have been incorporated in Las Vegas. I mean, you could do something with the London Bridge, Big
Sure.
Ben. There'd probably be a way to do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool. The next one was one that I was really excited about and I would love, and I think you would too. How about like an Alp/ski chateau sort of feel of a resort?
I like that. You could incorporate a lot of ice theming, and I think,
yeah.
or was it, who was it that used to have the ice bar? Was that at MGM Grand?
I think a lot of places have had those ice bars just in the middle of their malls and stuff. But
Yeah, but in Vegas, there was one of the properties had a big ice place, but I could see something like that. You could do something with that.
I mean, I love skiing. I love spending my time on mountains and things like that. Everybody knows I want to retire to Colorado. So I love the idea of something like that. I think it would be a lot of fun. And even Spiegelworld has kind of leaned into that, Josh. When they were doing all the stuff
That's true,
over
yeah.
at Cosmo, they had like their, what do they call, like the ski lodge bar or whatever I can't remember what they call it. But they did that some sort of theming along those lines. So I think it would be a great idea.
I do too.
Next up on the list, how about a modern take on Circus?
I think that's a great idea. It would be hard to divorce it, to separate it from Circus.
Yeah.
And if you think about just updating or upgrading Circus, that's tricky. But I mean, I like the idea. I still think a circus theme is pretty cool.
I do too. And the one that I think I saw the most often, Josh, how about like a Rat Pack or 50s, 60s casino sort of vibe?
Yeah. To me, I mean, I think it's a fun idea, but I don't know if you'd get very far.
Okay.
I mean, I guess you play 50s music, you have some theming with Rat Pack stuff. I don't know. I think actually, when I think about it, the most viable ones are probably a space thing or the London idea or a city, like that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. The only thing I would say is if you did a 50s, 60s sort of casino vibe and really wanted to push that, I would combine it with what I think people would call like a gambler's paradise sort of feel to it.
Okay.
Where it's like the Cromwell, where they have the absolute best
Old
games
school
when the Cromwell,
right.
Yeah, like when it first opened, where they have the absolute best games in the city, but they also do stuff like, super cheap buffets again,
Right.
all those lost
Right.
leaders that used to exist. Pull that all into one property with that theming and just see how it does. And I understand that there are people like me that are bean counters that are going to say, why in the world would we do this when we don't have to? But I just think it would be interesting.
I think it would be interesting. One idea that I had, Chris, was something like water, like Atlantis, something
Okay.
like that. I don't know if you could, how you do it, but that's one of the first things that popped into my head. And then I thought, when I saw the skiing Alps thing, I thought, what about something like Antarctica or a way to combine those kind of things? I don't know, but just the whole water idea is.
I like that. I'm a big fan of like waterfalls and stuff I find them calming.
Right.
I think it would be really cool. Like if almost like on Las Vegas, the TV show, the Montecito, how it had the waterfall in the very front of the property and the
Yes.
and the CG,
Yes.
the CGI stuff. I would love to have like a massive waterfall in the middle of a property that's constantly got that sound going and stuff. It would be cool. I would like that idea, but tons of good ideas out there. Thanks for bringing this up, Conflict Otter. We've been meaning to talk about this for a while, but yeah, anything theming is an A+ with me.
So maybe someday it'll come back.
I don't think so, but you never know. Okay, we received an email from Aaron, Chris, and Dr. Josh. Well, if you're going to call him doctor, you can at least call me professor. I mean, I think, okay, so Professor Chris and Dr. Josh, I'm going to Vegas soon, and it'll be my first time staying at an MGM property. A big focus of this trip will be earning tier credits. With that in mind, I've got a lot of questions for you. Number one, initially, I wanted to check out the vibe of multiple casinos, but would you suggest playing at multiple MGM properties or concentrating play at one or two casinos?
So from what we understand, MGM no longer matters. So you can play at any MGM property, and all your tier credits for the day, your tier bonus, if you hit it, will all blend together. So it doesn't matter.
The only caveat I will say to that is if you're trying to get a host at a specific property, then it absolutely does matter. Because if they see that you only gave them 1,000, and even if you gave them 20,000 in rated play over the weekend, if they only got 1,000 there, they're not going to be interested in you. So if you truly want to get a host on property, you need to concentrate your play at that property. But if all you care about is being good in the MGM system and earning credits and getting corporate offers, then no, spread it around all you want to.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, going from property to property does take time and might take a time away from your tier accumulation. So just that's an issue.
Or if you're somebody like us and getting your ass handed to it, maybe it's good to bounce around properties, Josh, and slow things down. Number two, in order to maximize earning potential, I'll play slots to some extent, even though I prefer craps. I'm trying to determine what percentage of funds to split between craps and slots to balance out enjoyment and earnings. Either of you have any thoughts on how you'd like to allocate your bankroll? And that's a great question based on our discussion we were having earlier with our host. If you're truly trying to maximize comps and Theo and everything else, I would try to get it as close to 50-50 as you can. I mean, theoretically, it'd be great to go 100% on slots and no craps, but I'd try to get as even as you possibly could because you're going to get a lot more value out of the slot play than you ever will out of the craps table.
Yeah, you sure will. And I think my example is from MGM. It was on after Chris left, so it would have been the Monday after Chris left. I got about 40,000 tier credits that day, and only 15,000 of it was from playing craps. The rest of it was from slots. Don't even think I played any video poker that day. And I looked at based on my screenshots, Chris, there was a period in the morning. I went down first thing in the morning. I played some slots. I earned 5,000 tier credits in 13 minutes.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all.
So, I mean, that's a really small sample set. But point is, you're going to get a lot more tier credit accumulation, and the properties are going to love you more. We already know this from playing slots. So, and Chris and I have talked about it just as a way to make our bankroll go a little longer, of trying to maybe lower our craps play a little bit. Not necessarily our frequency, but maybe see if we can play a little lower average bet, but play more on slots and video poker.
Yeah, for sure. It's something we've definitely talked about. Her third question, at the end of the trip, when I go to the hostess to see if my play could warrant any comps, will they only be able to see the activity at that casino or all casinos within the brand?
Well, I think they can see the activity at all the properties. They may or may not factor it the same, and that I don't know for an on-property host.
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, we've talked about this before, even with our MGM host, saying, hey, before we bounce over to Mandalay Bay when we're staying at Aria, will you get credit for the play? And of course, they'll say, yeah, absolutely. We get credit for all your play at any of the properties once you're assigned underneath us. I'm sure they can probably see it. I don't know how much it affects their decision-making, Josh, on giving you comps for their property. I really don't know the answer to that.
And what I might suggest is when you get there, stop by the host office and ask that question directly. Is a good, that'll get you at least as close to an accurate answer as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we have no problem doing. If there's something we don't know and we're curious, we'll just ask the host. 90% of the time, they'll give you a truthful answer that's very nice and polite, and they'll be very understanding.
And to that point, Chris, I did actually do that on this last trip, because when I checked into Aria to Sky Suites on the whatever day it was, Sunday, I had about an hour of time that I might want to, gamble. And I actually asked the host office, is this going to affect my daily, is this going to count as a gambling day? Like, how is 1 hour of play going to, we know it counts as a gambling day, but how would 1 hour of play affect me? And he said, if you're a hosted player, they don't care. They're looking at your trip, your play over the course of your trip. If you're just a player going off a marketing offer, that's different. So something to keep in mind. If you are hosted, the host is going to look at your trip total. And we've talked about that at Win as well. If you're just going off a marketing offer and not using a host, you have to be much more careful of your play per day.
Yes. And we've even said that's one of the reasons that we find Josh typically gets better offers than I do, even though my ADT may even be higher than his sometimes, because maybe I go harder on some things. Josh has much better trip theo than I do because his trips are just longer. He's getting more play in. So they know if Josh comes into town, they're going to get X dollars more typically than they would get from me because my trips are shorter. So yeah, it does work against you from that perspective, but that's good to know about being a hosted player versus not a hosted player and how that affects you. And final question she had, Josh, can you charge meals back to your room from any MGM property or only from the property you're staying at?
I think any MGM property. Now, with the cyber attack, that kind of fuzzed a little bit for a while, but I think it's back to any MGM property.
Yeah, that's always been my understanding. We've eaten multiple times at different properties when we weren't staying there and charged it right back without issue. So I there was a period there, Josh, when Cosmo first came under the MGM umbrella,
too, yep.
they could only charge to their luxury
Bellagio
tier,
and
Aria Bellagio. And it's really weird how MGM does that. Like MGM considers Aria Bellagio Cosmo to be like their own subset of properties. And it's tied, like transportation is different. Just everything's different. But anyways, no, you should be okay charging back anywhere. So she said, cheers, Aaron. So thank you, Aaron, for that question. A lot of cool questions in there. Hopefully that helped a little bit.
Thank you.
Finally, Josh, we got an email from Jessica asking about Fountain Blue stuff, and you're an expert at Fountain Blue now. She said, hi, guys. My husband and I are huge Vegas fans and really enjoy your podcast. It's like having a slice of Vegas in Seattle between our trips. Josh, she's a Washington person.
Yes.
She's one of you. We wanted to share a recent experience of Fountain Blue. We're low to mid rollers, depending on the trip, and tend to stay at Caesars properties since they're the best about giving comp rooms. This last trip, we stayed at the Flamingo and decided we would do a day at Fountain Blue and have a quote-unquote high roller day, which was for us allotting $5,000 for the day. So that's a great budget for a day. Yeah. She said they established a $5,000 credit line with Fountain Blue. They played $50 to $100 blackjack mostly, some $10 slots, and some video poker. One thing she did think worth noting, they were very upset at Fountain Blue that there was only one video poker bar on the whole property, and it's at the sports book. Which is not ideal.
I played video poker at Fountain Blue with Boring Jack as well, and he had to take me to that. I wouldn't have found it. You have to go through the tavern as the name of their sports book. And yeah, it's just one place. And I understand video pokers are pretty cranky about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're just trying to get paying patrons at the bars and to really maximize revenue.
Yeah.
And if they put video poker, those people are going to want comp drinks, so they won't make as much. I guess that's the philosophy.
I'll be curious to see if it works, but I mean, as I'm kind of becoming more of a video poker player, that would bother me too. Like, I'm not in any hurry to go back to Fountain Blue and play video poker for sure.
Okay. So they had that day, Josh. She had her $5,000 line. I think she said that they blew through most of it, if not all of it. Here's the offer they got back. This was their first time there. The offer that they got was 4 comp nights, $750 in free play, and $250 in resort credit. First of all, what do you think?
I think that's not bad. For $5,000, was it how many days did she say?
Just a single day.
Just a single. That's not bad. I think that's a really nice offer, actually.
I thought that was extremely aggressive because, I mean, a $5,000 line that they were playing off of to effectively get 20% back of your line, not counting the room, more than that counting the room. That's extremely aggressive.
I mean, Chris and I are happy with $750 from free play at a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, if this is Win, then I'm super excited to get $750.
Right.
The difference is at Win, they don't give anything less than $750. That's the lowest level that they will give anybody. They never have anything below, which is...
No, I think I got 500 in promo chips before.
They've done a couple deals like that before, but it's... One thing I like about Win,
Josh, not very often.
When they have a deal like that where they're giving gift cards or promo chips or anything, they always have a link on the bottom of their email to all the terms and conditions.
Yes.
And they show you exactly what the tiers are and what the thresholds are for each tier.
Cool.
And I never see anybody below me other than that one time you were $250 less. But yeah, anyways, that's a great offer. I mean, it's a bounce back offer. It's your first one. So you always expect the best there. But I would definitely be excited to get something like that at a new property after one day's play.
Me too.
She did ask, do you or your fans have any recommendations on how to maximize our offers going forward as pseudo high rollers? We did talk about this recently, Josh, on a Patreon episode, how we would play if we were trying to maximize comps. But in your case, Jessica, you got a good offer. The benefit is that Fountain Blue is pretty desperate right now for higher level play. You can see it from the offer you got. Josh can see it in the offer that he got from him after a limited play day where they sent him his highest amount ever. They're definitely going crazy trying to get players in the door there. So if comps is the big thing for you, I'd try to give Fountain Blue a full weekend and see what it looks like for you at the end. I bet you it's going to be better than you even imagine.
Yeah, and the one thing I was thinking of is just what you're doing already, which is concentrate your bankroll into a single day if you can, or spread it out over the weekend if you've got a bigger bankroll, but concentrate that play as much as you can.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you can keep it to a single day, that's great. If you're not staying there and you give them that kind of play, then they're really excited to see what you'll do when you come back.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you so much for the email. That was from Jessica and Kevin. So, Josh, you'll have to meet up with them in Seattle sometime, throw some dice.
Absolutely. Is it time, Chris?
Okay, Josh, begrudgingly, I think you can spin the wheel.
Okay, here we go. Let's spin the wheel.
It's time to spin the Crap Vegas Big Wheel. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Josh,
I'm glad somebody
spin
is.
the wheel.
Okay, what we got this week, Josh?
So, Chris, I don't know if you knew there's a movement afoot, a petition to stop the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
I think that's a terrific idea. I would sign it myself if I could. I'm not a local, but that makes perfect sense to me.
A group of Las Vegas businesses say they lost over $30 million from the Grand Prix last year. So who knows if that's true or not, but...
I mean, Josh, we talked about it last time when the Grand Prix was actually happening. I mean, it's not as big of a deal for places on the Strip, although it made it very hard for people to get to it. But those, like, slightly off-strip restaurants that were inside the racing corridor.
Batista's is the one that comes to mind for me.
They had to effectively shut down.
Yeah.
And they got nothing for doing it. It's not like they're getting any more business because this is going on. If you told me the total economic impact was $100 million, I'd still believe you.
And I think one of their complaints is that the race officials in the city or whoever it is are not talking to them about how we're going to do things differently to make this better. So I hope that some of that happens.
I mean, so much came out after F1 was done last year, Josh, that there was really no contract or agreement that existed between these people. Money was just flying back and forth willy-nilly. I didn't know if we would get to a second year of it or not, honestly. Because it went off on TV without a hitch. It looked great. But behind the scenes, there was a lot of frustrated people across the board. And I don't think that anybody that lives in Vegas really felt like they got their money's worth with this endeavor.
Agreed. So, Chris, did you see that the poor Lovers and Friends music concert got blown away? Did you know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't see that at all, Josh. That's so sad.
Yeah, there was a music festival called Lovers and Friends that was supposed to be this past weekend with Usher and Janet Jackson and Snoop Dogg and Gwen Stefani. I even know these names. Lil Wayne, Backstreet Boys. And apparently Las Vegas was going to have really high winds, and so they canceled it the night before. People were all pissed. Usher actually performed at Jewel at Aria, so he actually went on and performed a little bit. I think some performers did, but it's too bad the concert got canceled.
It is, and now that you say this, Josh, I remember seeing on TikTok that Janet Jackson was at Voltaire on that Saturday night, just hanging out partying.
I think she saw Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, which, by the way, I want to go to Voltaire soon. There's a bunch of really good shows there, Josh. We can get tickets for free. We need to go. But that being said, everybody was making the joke that Janet Jackson was coming there after the horrible weather of 2-mile-an-hour winds that existed that night.
Yeah, I think that's the punchline, is that I guess the winds never matriculated in the way they were supposed to. Yeah, so
whoops.
Everybody was extra mad.
What else you got?
The last thing I got for you, Chris, is a headline from Gambling Reddit or Vegas Reddit that said, Casino War, no house edge. And
feels like a problem here already.
Feels like a problem. So this brings to mind a story that a dealer at Aria told me after you left. So this is a craps dealer. We're playing craps. And the dealer said, so one day I'm dealing Casino War, and a guy in a suit comes up, and he's watching the game for a while. And, you know, it's Casino War. It's not rocket science.
There's no possible cheating taking place here.
The dealer is said, you know, do you want to play? And the guy said, no, I just want to watch for a little bit, figure out the game. And the dealer's like, all right. So he's playing with some other people. And finally, this guy says, okay, I'll jump into Casino War. And so sure enough, they play for a while. And then, of course, they go to war. They get a tie. And for those of you that don't know Casino War, it's like war when you were a kid.
It's the worst thing that can happen for the player.
Right. So they get a tie. And you know what happens in a tie? You have two choices. One, you can surrender. You can surrender half your bet. And the other one is you put up your initial wager again.
Yes.
And if you win the war, you only get the
original wager back.
Your original wager back, right.
Yeah,
so
the other
that's
one pushes.
where the big house edge comes in. And I think house edge wise, depending on little specifics of rules, it's between 2 and 4% house edge.
Probably.
But so the tie comes and the player says, he gives the blackjack stay sign. You know, like, I'm not going to do anything. And the dealer's like, he said, I just want to push. And
that's not an option.
Like, that's not how this works. You have two choices. You can surrender or you can double your bet. And the guy said, well, that's a terrible rule.
Imagine that.
This is a terrible game. Why would I do that?
Oh, Josh, this is why casinos exist.
Exactly. Anyway, that's the end of the casino war story. Shall we stop the wheel?
Let's stop the wheel. Perfect. I will say, if you have a story you'd like included on the wheel next time, send that to podcast@crapvegas.com. Patreon, Josh. That's patreon.com/crapvegas. What do we got new over there?
Oh, we had a great time talking about my adventures after you left on this trip. So we talked about my stay at Fontainebleau and my stay at Aria Sky Suites and by
Wait, hold on, Josh. How many days were you there after I left?
I was there for 2 days after you left, or maybe it was 3 because you left early, but I think it was 2.5 basically.
And Josh, but you had 2 other properties. Did you stay at each for one night?
I got around a little bit. You have to listen to Patreon to find out.
Okay.
Also played some fantastic video poker with Boring Jack and Sean and his wife Letty at Resorts World. So that was a lot of fun.
A fourth property. Yes.
Yeah, fourth property, yes.
Okay.
Met up with Joyce and Jason as well after you left. Talked about all that stuff on Patreon.
Nice. Big thank you to the new patrons over the past couple weeks. We had Martin R. Josh, he lives in Holland. We have international patrons now. That's really exciting. Brian D. Daniel M. $100 Hard 4. Aaron P., who I think had a question earlier this episode.
I think so too.
Scott F., who did an annual subscription. Thank you, Scott. The Chef Demoni podcast with an annual subscription. Thank you. I think his name is Graham. Is that right?
That's what I was going to say. It's Graham. Yep.
Okay. And Parker C. And also just a special shout out to listener/patron Jordan.
And this is Jordan P., not the Jordan that met us in Vegas, but Jordan P.
I mean, we love you too, Jordan.
That's right.
But Jordan P. has been a patron since the first day that we opened the show, Josh. He still sticks around, and we haven't heard from him in a while. Jordan, let us know how you're doing. That'd be awesome.
Jordan met me one time in Vegas, and that must have been enough that he said, I don't need to interact.
I'll
never meet your
him,
heroes,
but I can't see those people anymore. Yeah, it's downhill from when you do. It just is.
But Jordan, thanks for sticking with us this whole time. Hope you're continuing to enjoy the show and listen.
Absolutely. Upcoming trips, Josh. Late June. Do you have the dates on that? I don't have it in front of me.
It's going to be June 28th through July 2nd.
Okay, so June 28th through July 2nd, we'll be out there. Clearly, I won't be there all 4 days, especially the way it's going. I may just be there one day, but this is Josh's big birthday spectacular. We're going to try to split it up over 2 locations. But what I think is most interesting, Josh, is when I asked you where you want to stay since it's your birthday, Wynn was not on the list.
Yeah, Wynn is not on the list. And Rick, I'm sorry. It's not anything to do with you. In fact, I'll miss you a lot, and I might find a way to sneak down to Wynn in between or something like that. But it's really just that I'm pretty sure I don't want to try and make black tier at Wynn this year. And I'm getting nice offers from MGM, Aria. I can get Sky Suites. We can get Sky Suites those days. And then I'm pretty sure our host at Venetian now is going to set us up pretty nicely after our last trip. So I'm thinking Venetian and MGM, Aria.
Okay. It's your trip. It's your call, Josh. That's what we'll do. Rick, I don't hate you. I still would prefer to be at Wynn over Aria. But you know what? It's Josh's trip. So this is what happens. And it is going to be hard hitting black this year now, Josh, since I've only been once. And at this point in the year, I've usually been 3 or 4 times. So
right.
A friendly reminder to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app and to visit our merch store. That's crapvegas.com/shop. Josh, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here today?
The last thing I was going to say, Chris, so I'm at Aria after you left, and one of the dealers is telling me that on Friday night, so while we were in Vegas, we were at Venetian, they had a 2-hour and 41-minute roll on the craps table at Aria on Friday night.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, as I'm sure you are, and all of our listeners who are craps players, just give me half of that and I'll be happy. But apparently there was obviously a full table by the time the roll got going, but there was only one player who really captured the roll, really took advantage. Everybody else did okay, kind of thing. But this guy started with a buy-in of about $1,000. The dealer said, colored up 400,000.
Wow. Can you imagine? I mean, we've talked about those situations before, Josh. If we could ever get on a table like that with a 40-minute roll or a 50-minute roll, that we could easily make $100,000 without even trying.
$400,000.
But I mean, a 2-hour roll. I mean, can you? Because at that point, all your numbers are table max.
Yeah.
And I'm
you're
probably taking and you're probably doing a horn bet for $1,000 or $2,000 just to have that covered. I mean, geez, Josh, boy, that would be amazing at the end of the day.
2 hours and 41 minutes. We missed out.
Yeah, just slightly.
Our longest roll was maybe 10 minutes. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to give one more thanks to everybody that met us or me over the weekend. We had a great time seeing everybody. We've mentioned most everybody. We played a lot with Jack and Jordan. I played a lot with Sean and his wife, Letty, video poker particularly. That was a lot of fun. I met up with Joyce and her husband, Jason, at the Aria Starbucks one morning. That was super cool. We just hung out for a while and chatted, and then I went off and gambled, and they had fun. And then lastly, I think, Chris, we met a man who I'm pretty sure his name was Brother in one of the high limit slots.
In the Venetian high limit slot room when we were both playing Huff and Puff.
That's right.
And he heard our voice and he said, "Hey, aren't you guys Chris and Josh?"
So that was super cool. So we had a good time meeting and playing with everybody. If you're ever in Vegas the same time we are, we'd love to shoot some dice with you or sit at a more Huff and more Puff machine with you. But if we forgot anybody, our apologies. But we really enjoyed meeting and seeing everybody.
Oh, yeah. If nothing else, just come by and say hi. You don't even have to play. Right. We just like meeting everybody so we can put a face with a name. So that'd be great.
At the beginning of the trip is better because Chris won't bite.
Correct. Towards the end, I may be very pissy and want to get away from you. And I hate to finish on a slightly more somber note, Josh, but we do want to pass along our condolences to Dr. Mike on the loss of his father over the past couple of weeks. Dr. Mike, our prayers are with you.
Yep, for sure.
So thank you all for listening this week, and we will talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Vegas, here we come.
Thanks for listening to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
Check out all our recent news and our Vegas trip calendar by visiting crapvegas.com.
See you in Vegas.
Josh, why don't we start off? This is the first time that you've been to... Where do we go? Venetia. No, what is going on? It's even in bold letters in front of me.
Circus.
Yeah.
It is. That's the first time I've been to Circus.
See? It's not as easy as it looks. Everybody thinks being a podcaster is super easy. You know what? It's not. Okay, we also got a message on Patreon from I don't know. Let me try this again.
So Boring Jack had been playing craps at the High Limit Bar at the Palazzo in the High Limit.
No, he hadn't. No, he hadn't. He'd been playing video poker.
You're right.
Computer, how many entries are there for Darmok?
47.